title page, that is a main page of the research report, that is a first front page of the research report, which is called as what? Title page. Next is conclusion. So based on whole research work, what the conclusion the researcher is going to give. So from where he has referred the information, that has to be recorded in a reference. So he should not ensure that grammatical as well as punctuation errors have been corrected. Hello everyone, I am Harshita, lecturer, Department of Commerce, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. My dear students, today we are in the fourth session, that is last session of Unit 6 of Business Research Method, and the Unit 6 is about Research Report. So already we have discussed few of the concepts. Let us quickly recall what we have discussed in a previous session. So in a previous session, I have covered this topic, that is we have learnt about components of research report. So what are the various components or contents of research report? That is, what are the contents which are included while writing in the research report. Now we shall see what is the format of research report, that is in what format the research report has to be written. And it is a step-by-step procedure and you have to follow the same format here. Now coming to the first one, title page, that is a main page of the research report, that is a first front page of the research report, which is called as what? Title page. So which includes title about the project and subtitle. So if the researcher wants to give the subtitle to his project, then he can give the subtitle. But the main title has to be written first. So if it is necessary, then he can give the subtitle, date when he presents the research report, then author, organization's name, organization's logo. So everything that has to be written in the title page. So title page is the first page or the front page of the research report. Now coming to the second one, background. Suppose if that research report or the research activity has any certain background, or which has certain history about that particular project, so that has to be written in the background. So background includes history, if any, behind the project. If there is any history behind the project, so that has to be written in the background. Next one is acknowledgement. So during the research activity, the researcher might have taken help from certain people or certain organizations, where this is a time where he wants to thank them. Okay, so that has to be written in the acknowledgement. So author thanks people and organization who helped him to successfully conduct his research work. So in order to make the research work successful, there are certain person or there are certain organization who have helped him out. So this is a time where he has to thank them. So that will be recorded in the acknowledgement. Next one is summary, sometimes called as abstract of the synopsis. Okay, so summary means what? It is just an abstract where in a single paragraph he is going to write whole content or the whole concept will be written in a summarized form in a certain small paragraph. That is known as what? Summary, or it is also called as abstract of the research, where in a short form a paragraph will be written about the whole research work. That is summary, a condensed version of the report, a small version of the whole research report. Next one is list of contents. Of course, if the user wants to know about a particular information or know about a particular content in the research report, he can't go through each and every page and search for the information. So at a glance, he has to come to know where the information we can get. So where we have to refer. For that, a list of contents will be prepared. Already we have discussed in a previous session, a list of contents will be prepared. It may be relating to a particular topic, or it may be relating to the table, or it may be relating to the diagrams. So that will be written in the list of contents. That is, at a glance, the user has to know about the information. So that is list of contents. So an at a glance list that tells the reader what is in the report and what page number to find it on. So which page number he can refer in order to get his information. That is list of contents. Next, a list of tables. So The researcher might have used certain tables in order to analyze as well as in order to interpret his research activity. So, in order to make understand the user, so what the information he is going to present. So, the information in the research report should be presented to the user, correct? So, in what way he might have presented? So, it may be in the form of table or it may be in the form of diagrams. So, that list of tables, suppose he has prepared tables in order to interpret the information. So, that list of tables should be there. That is the list of tables. So, table number 1. So, what is the table number 1 tells about it. Okay, so what is the page number the user can refer. So, everything the list of tables heading contains. That is as above specifically for tables. So, this is just for tables. And the next one, list of appendices. So, suppose if the researcher have used certain techniques or certain extra tools in order to collect the information, or he might have used certain formulas, okay, or he might have used certain statistical tools, or he might have used questionnaires to collect the information. So, that questionnaire, so list of appendices, so what he has used in order to collect the data. So, what are the extra thing which has helped him to collect the information or which have helped him to make the research work successful. So, which is known as list of appendices. So, it may be questionnaire, it may be any statistical formulas, statistical tools he might have used. So, that thing he has to specifically mention. That is, it is specifically for appendices. Next one is introduction. Now, we will come into the project. That is introduction, where author sets the scene and states his or her intention. So, he gives whole introduction about that particular topic. Okay, so he gives his intentions. That is in introduction. Next one is aim and objective. So, what is the main objective of research work? What is the main objective of research activity? So, that has to be included here. That is general aims of the audit or project, broad statement of intent. That is, what is the main objective? What is the main intention of conducting the research activity? That is objective. Next one is objectives. So, specific things expected to do or deliver. Example, expected outcome. So, what would be the future outcome? So, this is the ultimate aim what the researcher want to reach. So, here general aims. So, it contains general aims, whereas in the objective it contains the specific things which he wanted to prove at the end of his research work. Next one is method. So, what are the various methods of research he might have used, which is nothing but methodology. So, here work steps, what was done, how, by whom, when. So, everything what the method he has followed to conduct his research activity. So, that will be included in the method. Next one is result or findings. So, what after conducting his research work, what he has found out, new things, how or what the solution he has found out to a particular problem. So, that has to be recorded. So, honest presentation of the findings. So, what he has actually found out, whether these were as expected or not. So, whether he has expected those results or not. So, which can be done through hypothesis testing. Okay. Give the facts including any inconsistencies or difficulties encountered. So, whether he has found out any difficulty while accomplishing his objectives. So, what is the actual findings or result of his research work? And the next one is discussion. That is explanation of the results. So, he is going to give the explanation about the results. You might like to keep the SWOT analysis. That is strength, weakness, opportunities and threats. So, what he is going to do the SWOT analysis. That is, he is going to discuss. So, what are the strength, what are the weakness, what are the opportunities, what are the threats he has overcome. So, you might like to keep the SWOT analysis in mind and think about your project's strength, weakness, opportunities and threats as you right. So that is about discussion. Next is conclusion. So based on whole research work, what the conclusion the researcher is going to give. And it is so important that so the conclusion plays a very important role in the research report. That is what the conclusion the researcher is going to give to the users. The author links the results. So he goes through the results, he goes through the findings with the points made in the introduction and strives to reach clear, simply stated and unbiased conclusion. So based on introduction, based on objectives, based on findings, so he is going to interpret the conclusion. So he is going to draft a conclusion. Make sure they are fully supported by evidence and arguments of the main body of your project. So what he has to do? So seeing through the project, he has to draw a meaningful conclusion. And the next one is recommendations. So the author states what specific action should be taken. So he is going to give some recommendation to the other researcher or to other user also. Okay, so the author states what specific actions should be taken by whom and why. So suppose what are the actions that has to be taken in the future. So in order to fulfill the activities or in order to solve a particular problem, what are the further actions that can be taken? So this motivates the other researcher to continue to do their research work based on same topic. That is, he would recommend something here. So he will give an suggestions to other researchers for further conducting of research work. So they must always be linked to the future and should always be realistic. Don't make them unless asked to. So he has to recommend other researchers or users to take up the research activity. Next one is references. As you all know, the researcher will not get all the information on his own. He has to refer certain things. It may be already published books, already published articles, periodicals, newspapers. So what he has referred or what has helped him to conduct his research work successfully. So what are the reference he has gone through? So that has to be included. A section of a report which provides full details of publications mentioned in the text or from which extract have been quoted. So from where he has referred the information, that has to be recorded in a reference. And the next one is appendix. So as I already told you, so these are the additional tools which is been used by the researcher in order to conduct his research work. That is the purpose of an appendix. So earlier we have learnt about list of appendix. So what are the list of appendix? He has been used. But here in the appendix he is going to actually put it. So he will write the formula what he has used, or he will put a copy of the questionnaire. So from which the information or data has been collected. So the purpose of an appendix is to supplement the information contained in the main body of the report. So in order to get the result of that particular research activity, what are the tools or what are the techniques he has been used? So these are the format of research report. So already in our previous session we have learnt about what are the contents or what are the components of research report. Now we have learnt about format of research report. Now coming to the next concept, that is chapterization. So this is a small topic where the whole research report is divided into chapters. That is chapter 1 to chapter 5. So that division of contents into chapters is called as chapterization. The entire research work will run into 5 chapters. Okay, so it contains 5 chapters. The first one on introduction. The first chapter will be on introduction. So your first chapter is introduction, brings about the importance of the study and state its objectives. So the whole research work or the whole research report is divided into 5 chapters, and the first chapter is introduction. So chapter 1 is introduction, which contains the main objectives of doing the research work. It contains a brief introduction about the research work. It also includes methodology. So it includes the methods or the research methods what the researcher is going to follow, and limitations. What are the limitations the researcher have faced during his research work. So chapter 2 will contain the previous review. So we will call it as literature review. So the chapter 2 is what? Literature review or previous reviews. So on that particular topic, so suppose the researcher has selected a particular topic, on that particular topic, what are the earlier studies which has been made? Okay, so that is known as what? Literature review. He is going to review the literature. He is going to read out, or he is going to go through a literature of some other researcher, and he is writing his own opinion about that literature. That is known as he is going to review the literature of some other person. That is, chapter 2 is previous review, that is literature review. History of the problems. So it might contain the history of the problems. So if he has a problem, or what the problem the researcher is going to solve, what the history the problem had. So that has to be included here. A quick look on subjective well-being will also be carried out in chapter 2. Okay, a quick glance of whole contents, what the researcher is going to study and what are the studies which are being already made by some other researcher. He is going to review that. And the next one is chapter 3 will be methodological part, that is research methodology. So what are the methods of research the researcher is going to follow? Methodology part of the study, analysis and discussions is to be done in chapter 4. So your chapter 3 will be methodological, that is it contains the research methodology. And chapter 4 will be what? Analysis and discussions, that is analysis and interpretation takes place under chapter 4, where the data will be analyzed here. So it will be converted into tables, it will be converted into diagrams where it can be interpreted easily. Findings, conclusions and suggestions. So findings, conclusions and suggestions for further study will be presented in chapter 5. So the last chapter will be findings, conclusions as well as suggestions, and even the recommendations also. So that will be presented in chapter 5, followed by bibliography and reference. So this whole report or whole research report will be divided into chapters, where chapter 1 will be introduction about the topic, chapter 2 will be literature review, and the chapter 3 will be methodology, and the chapter 4. So chapter 4 will be analysis and discussions or analysis and interpretations, and the chapter 5 will be conclusion, findings and suggestions. And it will be followed by bibliography as well as reference, where you can put appendix also. So this about chapterization. And the next concept is that principles of report writing. So what are the principles? How the research report should be? Okay, so we have learned that what are the contents that has to be included, and what the contents, each and every contents, what the sub-contents which are included in each and every main content. So everything we have learned here. Now we shall see how the research report should be. So what are the principles or what are the characteristics of research report? So what are the principles of research report while writing the research report? So while writing the research report, the researcher should observe the certain principles. Let us see what is this. So the first one is clarity. Of course, the report should be very clear and there should be clarity, correct? So clarity in research report so that it can be understood by the users easily. So while drafting the research report, the researcher should ensure clarity in the presentation. So he should make sure that there is clarity in the presentation, and there are certain fonts which has to be used in the research report. So everything, because in order to make the research report more clarity, so there are certain fonts, there are certain type of fonts which is being used, specific type of fonts which is being used, so that has to be followed. So presentation of details of results of the study, clarity will facilitate to understand the contents of the report without trouble. So in order to make the research report more clear and more precise, there should be clarity. So first principle of research report is clarity. And the next one is conciseness. So here the research report should not be too big or too lengthy, nor too short. So it should be medium in size. Okay, so that is conciseness. The research report should be concise and comprehensive. So it should be concise, at the same time it should have sufficient information in that. The research report should cover the objectives. So it should cover all the important points here. Objectives, analysis, findings, interpretations, conclusions, recommendations, everything it has to include the important points. It doesn't mean that it should be too lengthy. Okay, so it should be small, at the same time it should include all the important points. This means that the report is neither exhaustive, it should not be too lengthy unnecessarily, nor it is too short. Okay, so here the researcher has to keep in mind that it should be concise in nature. Next one is objectivity. Of course, the research report should contain the objective, right? So the research report should demonstrate reality throughout its presentation. So it should always focus us. So whenever the research report has been presented, so the user has to know that it is always focused on objective of the research work. So it should always focus on the objective. Irrelevant report fail to reach the objectives of research. So without any objective, simply if we are going to present the report, so it's a mere waste, right? So the researcher has to make sure that whenever he is going to present to the user has to get the feeling that so it is related to the objective of research work. The stakeholder will receive an invalid or fake results if there is no objectivity in the report. So here the main user is nothing but the stakeholder, because we are going to learn about business research method and the stakeholders plays a very important role here. So always when we are going to present a research report to the stakeholders has to feel through that it is going to attain the objective. And the fourth principle is that accuracy. Of course, the information, so whatever the information which are included in the research report, it should be accurate. There should be correctness in the research report. So there should be certainly in a collected data and information used in the research. So the research report should be basically on the information which is collected by the researcher on that particular topic. So he can't assume certain things, he can't presume certain things. It should be exactly what the respondents have given the information. Based on that, the research report has to be presented. An accurate report will be available only when the accurate data is analyzed and interpreted and it is been presented in the research report. Of course, I have told you, whatever the information which is being collected from the respondents, the same information has to be analyzed and interpreted, and that has to be recorded in the research report. There should not be any changes. At the same time, there is no assumptions, personal assumptions which is made by the researcher. So he should not ensure that grammatical as well as punctuation errors have been corrected. So there should not be any grammatical or punctuational errors also, because it has to be presented very neatly. And the next one is completeness. So here the research report should be complete in nature. So whatever the research activity has conducted, everything that has to be presented in the form of report, but make sure that only the important points has to be included here, not all the contents. The report is complete only when it incorporates all the necessary information. Only if all the important information are included, then only we can tell that research report is complete. So an imperfect report requires supplementary reports. Suppose if the report does not contain complete information, then there should be an additional report which will fulfill this wrong report, that is fulfill this incomplete report. The interest held by the researcher in his study and efficiency will help to complete the research report. Now what you have to remember here, under completeness, the research report should be in such a way that it should include all the necessary information. It should not skip any of the important information. At the same time, unnecessary information has to be deleted, because the user does not want those unnecessary information. So he wants the information in order to tackle the problem. So make sure that the researcher has to go through only necessary information are included and all the important information are included in detail. And the next principle is that stress on practical report. Suppose if the researcher have proved something practically, then those practical report has to be included in the research report, because practical aspect where it is been proved successfully. So if such type of things are ignored, then there is no value for the research report. So practical things which are being proven, that has to be included, so that it gives the weightage for research report. So the research report should depend upon the practical innovations. It should not be in the form of theoretical concepts. So always, in order to make the research report more interesting, so theoretical aspect has to be reduced. More chances has to be given to the practical aspects. The researcher should have virtual or have a real outlook about the research study. So here, in order to make the research report more attractive, we use tables, pictures, diagrams and the theoretical aspects. At the same time, the practical aspects what we have undertaken. Okay, so practical aspects gives more importance than theoretical aspects. In order to make the user understand very easily, practical aspects plays a very important role. The writing should be limited to experimental innovations and decisions. So in experimental innovations and decisions, the theoretical aspects will be very less, so that the user can easily understand. Suppose if we are going to learn about demand and supply, so if it is in the theoretical aspect, it is quite difficult to learn, correct? So if it draw in the form of graph or in the diagrams, so it will be easy for us to understand. In the same way, whatever the researcher have found out the report, so instead of giving it in a theoretical aspect, make sure that it is in a practical form, so that the user will understand very easily. Next one is different typography. So the research report can be drawn in different forms and colors. So as I told you, it should be as attractive as possible. Okay, so it should not be boring. So there are certain standard which is been set, so that we have to use a particular font, we have to use a particular font size. So this is made because if we are going to use some other fonts, so it may look good, but it is difficult for the user to read that. Okay, so we have to make the research report as attractive as possible. The research report can be drawn in different forms and colors: full stop, semicolon, heading, subheading, main lines, etc. can be represented in different colored inks. The printed styles can also be customized. So in order to, we have to make it as more attractive as possible. At the same time, we have to keep the user in mind. Then we have to write a research report. So it doesn't mean that we have to present it more attractively. We can use whatever the fonts we want, stylish fonts we want. So this will not be very easy for the user to read that. So we have to keep in mind that of a user, then we have to write a research report. Now let us see what are the other principles that has to be followed while writing the research report than what you have studied already earlier. Okay, so the other principles, that is other principles to be followed while writing the research report should include the following. Let us see what are the other characteristics a research report should have. So the first one is technical terms should not be used too often. So we cannot use technical terms here. So unless it is technical research report, so other than that, we have to make it as, or we have to make the research report as simple as possible. So technical terms should not be used, or we have to reduce the technical terms. And the next one, while giving the clarity over the topic, the research should apply appropriate pictures, tables, diagrams, etc. So in order to make the research report more attractive and more understandable manner, we have to use this pictures, tables, diagrams. It is not preferable to use unscientifically. We cannot use randomly. So by proving itself, we have to use those diagrams as well as tables. And the next one is the researcher's opinion should be expressed through the report. So here, instead of copying from some other else or from some other researcher, he has to give his own opinion in the whole research report. And the next one is the page number, table, image number, annotation, footnote, etc. should be provided as per the criteria. So wherever necessary, we have to give the page number, table number, then title name has to be written properly. So these are the small concepts where the researcher has to keep in mind while writing the research report. Next one is bibliography, appendices and indexes should be the important parts of the research report. Of course, we have already learnt under contents of research report, so how important the bibliography as well as appendices play. So those important concepts have to be written carefully. The outlook of the report should be attractive, neat and clear. That is, the overall research report should be attractive, neat and clear. So it has to be bound properly. So these are the small concepts where the researcher has to keep in mind. Next, technical tools used in the report should be specifically illustrated. So as I told you, he might use certain technical tools to prove certain things. So those technical tool has to be illustrated properly or explained properly. So these are the principles of report writing. Hope you are clear that how the research report should be. Okay. Now we shall see what are the disadvantages of business research report. So already in a previous session we have already learnt about the advantages of business research report. Now we shall see how it is disadvantages. Now coming to the disadvantages here, some important limitations or disadvantages of business research report are given below. So let us see how this or what are the difficulties that are faced by the researcher while preparing the business research report. Now coming to the first point, obtaining research report to the small organization is a costly affair. Now, who are the organization or which organization they are going to prepare this business research report? Big organizations, because shareholders or the owner of the business is dependent upon the research report. But this business research report is not suitable for the small organization because the main limitation is that lack of time, at the same time lack of resources also. And it is a waste for the small organization because the amount of money what they carry is very less, and if they just spend on this preparation of business research report, it is mere waste. So, because they have no agreed financial backup to engage the lengthy as well as costly research work. Now, this is the first disadvantages, that is, it is not suitable for the small organization. The main thing, it is a disadvantage because lack of resources, that is financial resources, and it is a mere waste for the small organizations. And coming to the second disadvantage, most of the time business research is based on assumptions. Then one cannot expect a valid research report. So, certain times, suppose if we take about the business research, here we are going to deal with the human behavior where the behavior of the humans keeps on fluctuating or keeps on changing. Thereby, the researcher sometimes has to take the result based on the assumptions. So, these assumptions what the researcher is going to make while preparing the business research report, so this may not be suitable in certain situations where they have to exactly execute it. So, when the project has to be exactly executed and if it is based on assumptions, then it is not suitable. So, most of the time business research is based on assumptions. That is, especially business research. It's not like a scientific research where if we are going to prove number of times, so it will or we will get the exact result. But in case of business research, we cannot get the exact result because we deal with the human behavior where the human behavior keeps on fluctuating. So, then in that situation, the researcher has to go through assumptions. So, thus all outcomes from a research are not dependable. So, thereby we cannot completely 100% we cannot depend upon the research report. Therefore, no huge investment projects can be declared on the basis of the report. Because if we make, or depending upon the research report, if we make a huge investment, so since it is based on assumptions, that assumptions may not be suitable for a certain situation, then that huge investment may go waste. So this is a second disadvantage or limitations of business research report. Now coming to the third type, organizing and conducting business research will take a longer time. So, when a business organization wants its business research report immediately, then this is not possible because it requires longer period of time, because it takes long time for the researcher to collect the information. In order to identify the problem itself, it takes a longer period of time. After identification of the problem, he will collect the information, and thereby that information has to be analyzed and interpreted. So, it is a longer duration. So, when a problem has to be solved in a smaller period of time or with a less period of time, then this business research report or the business research is not possible, because it cannot be done in a shorter period of time. Obtaining the research report is further delayed during its preparation. It's not only the collection of information takes longer period of time, at the same time the preparation of research report also takes longer period of time. Thereby, so if the business wants the information immediately, then business research is not suitable. So it is possible only when the duration is very long. Only then the business research is suitable. Now coming to the fourth limitation, many times business research fail to produce accurate results. So as I have already told you, it is based on assumptions. And on the other hand, it does not provide accurate results. In such cases, research report prepared on such an accuracy. So, if the result is not provided in an accurate manner, are not dependable as well as reliable. So, if the research report does not provide accurate result, then the organizations cannot depend upon the research report, because it provides inaccurate result or incorrect result. And the next one is, in many cases, the research results will become an obsolete soon. So what do you mean by obsolete? Outdated. So here the research report, since it takes longer period of time to prepare, as well as the presentation of research reports take longer period of time, during that situation it may get obsolete also, because the duration of preparation of research report is too longer. So they have to identify the problem, they have to identify the solution for that. So it's not an easy task, it takes lot of time, thereby the research report gets obsolete soon. So when they are getting outdated, then we cannot refer that research report again. So then the research report obtained will not yield any desirable results when the findings and recommendations are put into practice. So thereby, suppose due to fluctuations in the market, due to fluctuations in the environment, so these business research report gets obsolete soon or get outdated soon, thereby we cannot apply to the current situations. And the last disadvantage of this business research report is that market is subject to frequent fluctuations, as I have already told you in the previous point itself. So why it gets outdated? Because of the fluctuations. It may be external fluctuation or internal fluctuations. So here also market is subject to frequent fluctuations, risk, volatile, uncertainties, outside influence, government regulations, etc. In such cases, the application of research report may not be fruitful. So when there is lot of fluctuations in the market, lot of fluctuations in the government regulations, so thereby the research report cannot be applied to the current situation. So these are the disadvantages of business research report. So my dear students, we have learned everything about research report. That is how we have to write the research report, what is research report, what are the qualities of research report, what are the principles to be followed while writing a research report, and so what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages, what are the contents that are included in the research report in this particular unit. So my dear students, hope you have understood today's session. See you all in my next session with a new topic. Till then, take care. Thank you.